Hi everyone, how are you? So today I'm going to be finishing this picture. I started painting, gel painting, and last live I did a day or two ago. Or was it yesterday? It was just yesterday actually. I take that back from yesterday. It feels like a day or two ago. So much has happened. So yeah, so I just need to do a little bit more of her snake body here. And let me see, let's make sure my live is working there. Okay, things are good. All right, so I've already put the gel pen on the Scotch tape, and I'm just mixing in some glycerin. And we'll start doing some painting. This is the lightest color. I'm just going to be putting this on top here. Hope everyone's doing well. Today is really the first day back to work for many people. Stressful day, can be exhausting. After a nice long weekend, I have to go back to work. I felt the stress, that's for sure. Not too much, but enough. Oops. Already this is a big space. I need some more. Still here. Okay.
Sometimes I wish he were alive to read what follows, even if he'd try to sue me over it. I feel foolish for having expected to get firm answers from him. I replay the scenario in my head, figuring out where I could have caught him in a lie, where I should have pressed him harder, how I might have parried his counterattacks. I really thought that with enough tenacity, I could get to the truth under all this. Now, most of the people who had the full story, including Manson himself, have died. And the questions I had then continue to consume me for almost 20 years. But I'm certain of one thing. Much of what we accept as fact is fiction. 1. The crime of the century. 2 decades overdue. My life took a sharp left-hand turn on March 21, 1999, the day after my 40th birthday, the day all this started. I was in bed with a hangover, as I'd been after countless birthdays before. And I felt an acute burst of self-loathing. I was a freelance journalist who hadn't worked in 4 months. I'd fallen into journalism almost by accident. For years, I'd driven a horse and carriage on the night shift at Central Park. And over time, my unsolicited submissions to magazines like New York had led to bigger and better assignments. While I was happy now to be living in Venice Beach and making a living as a writer, I missed New York, and mine was still a precarious existence. My friends had obligations. They'd started families. They worked long hours in busy offices. They led full lives. Even though my youth was behind me, I was so untethered that I could sleep into the afternoon. Actually, I couldn't afford to do much else at that point. I felt like a mess.
66.
When the phone rang, I had to make a real effort just to pick it up. It was Leslie Van Buskirk, my former
Okay, so I'm
editor
going to use the
from Us
darker color
magazine,
now.
now at Premiere, with an assignment. The 30th anniversary of the Manson murders was coming up, and she wanted a reported piece about the aftershocks in Hollywood. So many years later, Manson's name still served as a kind of shorthand for a very American form of brutal violence. the kind that erupts seemingly from nowhere and confirms the nation's darkest fears about itself. The crimes still held great sway over the public imagination, my editor said. What was it that made Manson so special? Why had he and the family lingered in the cultural conversation when other, even more macabre murders had faded from memory? Premiere was a film magazine, so my editor wanted me to talk to Hollywood's old guard, the generation that had found itself in disturbing proximity to Manson, and to find out how they felt with 3 decades of perspective. It was a loose concept. Leslie trusted me to find a good direction for it, and to shape it into something unexpected. I almost said no. I'd never been particularly interested in the Manson murders. I was 10 years old when they happened, growing up in Philadelphia. And though my brother swears up and down that he remembers me keeping a scrapbook about the crimes, I can't recall how they affected me in the slightest. If anything, I thought I was one of the few people on the planet who'd never read Helter Skelter. Like an overplayed song or an iconic movie, Manson held little interest to me precisely because he was ubiquitous. The murders he'd ordered were often discussed as the crime of the century. And crimes of the century tend to be pretty well picked over. But I needed the job, and I trusted Leslie's judgment. We'd worked together on a number of stories at Us. It was a monthly magazine then, not a weekly tabloid. And a piece like this, pitch black, would be a welcome departure from my routine as an entertainment writer, which called for a lot of sit-down meetings with movie stars in their cushy Hollywood Hills homes, where they'd trot out lines about brave career choices and the need for privacy. That's not to say the work was without its twists and turns. I got in a shouting match with Tom Cruise about Scientology. David Baldwin had somehow found a way to abandon me during an interview in his own home. And I pissed off Alec Baldwin, but who hasn't? I had some chops, in other words, but not much in the way of investigative bona fides. For a recent story about an unsolved murder, I chased down some great leads. But because my case was mostly circumstantial, the magazine sensibly decided to play it safe. And the piece came out toothless. This time, I thought I could do better. In fact, through the fog of my hangover, I remember thinking, this will be easy. I agreed to file 5,000 words in 3 months. Afterward, I thought, maybe I could move back to New York. 20 years later, the piece isn't finished. The magazine no longer exists. And I'm still in LA. A picture puzzle. Before I interviewed anyone, I read Helter Skelter. I saw what all the fuss was about. It was a forceful, absorbing book with disquieting details I'd never heard before. In their infamy, the murders had always seemed to exist in a vacuum. And yet, reading Bugliosi's account, what had seemed flat and played out was full of intrigue. I made notes and lists of potential interviews, trying to find an angle that hadn't been worked over. Toward the beginning of the book, Bugliosi chides anyone who believes that solving murders is easy. In literature, a murder scene is often likened to a picture puzzle. If one is patient and keeps trying, eventually all the pieces will fit into place. Veteran policemen know otherwise. Even after a solution emerges, if one does, there will be leftover pieces, evidence that just doesn't fit. And some pieces will always be missing. He was right. And yet I wondered about the leftover pieces in this case. In Bugliosi's telling, there didn't seem to be too many. His picture puzzle was eerily complete. That sense of certitude contributed to my feeling that the media had exhausted the murders. The thought of them could exhaust me too. Bugliosi describes Manson as a metaphor for evil. a stand-in for the dark and malignant side of humanity. When I summoned Manson in my mind, I saw that evil, the maniacal gleam in his eye, the swastika carved into his forehead. I saw the story we tell ourselves about the end of the 60s, the souring of the hippie dream, the death throes of the counterculture, the lurid, Dionysian undercurrents of Los Angeles, with its confluence of money, sex, and celebrity. Because we all know that story, it's hard to discuss the Manson murders in a way that captures their grim power. The bare facts, learned and digested almost by rote, feel evacuated of meaning. The voltage that shot through America has been reduced to a mild jolt. A series of concise Wikipedia entries and popular photographs. In the way that historical events do, it all feels somehow
Hi, Pinky
remote,
Vibrations. How are
sad.
you?
But it's critical to let yourself feel that shock, which begins to return as the details accumulate.
I'm playing an
This isn't
audiobook
just
in the
history.
background. I don't know if you can hear it
It's
or
what
not.
Bugliosi called, in his opening
Happy New
statement to the
Year.
trial,
Happy New Year.
a passion for violent death. Despite the common conception, the
I'm
murders
just
are
finishing up
still
this
shrouded
picture.
in mystery,
Putting some
down to
gel
some of
pen
their
over
most
it.
basic details. There are at least 4 versions of what happened, each with its own account of who stabbed whom with which knives, who said what, who was standing where. Statements have been exaggerated, recanted, or modified. Autopsy reports don't always
Good,
square
yeah,
with trial
thanks.
testimony. The killers have not always agreed on who did the killing. Obsessives continue to litigate the smallest discrepancies in the crime scenes. The handles of weapons, the locations of blood splatters, the coroner's official times of death. Even if you could settle those scores, you're still left with the big question. Why did any of this happen at all? Something to shock the world. August 8, 1969. The front page of that morning's Los Angeles Times described an
Can you hear the book in the
city.
background, the recording?
Central
Listening to an
Receiving
audiobook.
Hospital had failed to save the life of a wounded policeman. The legislature had passed a new budget for schools.
It's about Charles
and
Manson.
scientists were optimistic that Mars's South Polar cap could be
True
hospitable to
crime.
alien life. In London, the Beatles had been photographed crossing the street outside their studio, a shot that would become the cover of Abbey Road. Walter Cronkite led the
Oh, this doesn't take
CBS
long at all.
with a story about the devaluation of the
Well, I
film.
started adult coloring
The
in
space race was
2021.
in
That's
full
when I
swing,
bought this book.
and Americans were dreaming, sometimes with
During
a
the
touch of trepidation,
COVID.
about the science
So I started getting
fiction.
into adult coloring because it's so
Less than
relaxing.
3 weeks earlier, NASA had put the first man on the moon.
And you watch a lot of
All this
videos on, there's a lot of videos on
confidence,
YouTube.
technological ingenuity.
So many videos on YouTube you can watch, and you see the pictures on Instagram. People post what they do. So if you go to Instagram and you look up Mythomorphia hashtag, you'll see all the different artists around the world, and they do all kinds of amazing artwork with this coloring book. It's just it'll blow your mind. They do all kinds of things. You're like, whoa. I'm just a newbie at it compared to them. They're like these professional artists get on there and they're just doing all kinds of amazing things. As an artist, you can't resist. You're like, you want to try it too. You're like, okay, let's see what I can do, you know? But it takes, you know, to do a page, it depends how much time you put into it. Usually, you know, altogether make, I don't know. Color pencil takes a lot longer than gel. Gel pen painting is much quicker. So you're just spreading it around much quicker. I get so much more pigment too. It's really... Gel pen has been a game changer here with making my work much more vibrant. Making the page much more colorful. A lot of fun. There's a lot of good YouTube videos on as well, of course. They give you all sorts of ideas. How to do how they teach it. They have lessons. There's people who just do coloring, and they're usually professional artists, many of them, and they're tell you all about how to highlight and what colors to use, picking good colors, and where to put shading for the face, make things realistic, texture. There's all kinds of things when you take the adult coloring is it's can take things up to the next level when you want to make it look more like a professional color pencil artist. It's a good fun way to practice color pencil or even painting. So you don't have to worry about the drawing, you just focus on coloring, filling in. And it's much more relaxing and fun. And it helps with your own painting when you do your own original work. You get all this practice. Oh, I turned the book off now. You probably can't, you're not going to hear it now. I turned it off, but I didn't know if people could hear it or not. I was playing an audiobook in the background. You're not going to, I think I turned it off now. I can turn it on again if you want to hear it. It's about Charles Manson. You're interested in true crime.
Less than 3 weeks earlier, NASA had put the first man on the moon, an awe-inspiring testament to technological ingenuity. Conversely, the #1 song in the country was Zager and Evans's In the Year 2525, which imagined a dystopian future where you ain't gonna need to tell the truth, tell no lies. Everything you think, do, and say is in the pill you took today. It would prove to be a more trenchant observation about the present moment than anyone would have thought. Late that night at the Spahn Movie Ranch, a man and 3 women got in a beat-up yellow 1959 Ford and headed toward Beverly Hills. A ranchman heard one of the women say, "We're gonna get some fucking pigs." The woman was Susan Sadie Atkins, 21, who'd grown up mostly in San Jose. The daughter of 2 alcoholics, she'd been in her church choir and the glee club, and said that her brother and his friends would often molest her.
Oh, you can hear it.
Out of high
Okay.
school and moved to San Francisco, where she'd worked as a topless dancer.
It's a good book.
And gotten into LSD. My family kept telling me, "You're going downhill, you're going downhill, you're going downhill," she would say later. So I just went downhill. I went all the way down to the bottom. Huddled beside her in the back of the car, they'd torn out the seats to accommodate more food from the dumpster dives they often went on, was Patricia Katie Krenwinkel, 21, from Inglewood. Krenwinkel had developed a hormone problem as a kid, leading her to overeat and fear that she was ugly and unwanted. As a teen, she got into drugs and started to drink heavily. One day in 1967, she'd left her car in a parking lot, failed to collect the 2 paychecks from her job at an insurance company, and disappeared. In the passenger seat was Linda Kasabian, 20, from New Hampshire. She'd played basketball in high school, but she dropped out to get married. The union lasted less than 6 months. Not long after, in Boston, she was arrested in a narcotics bust. By the spring of 1968, she'd remarried, had a kid, and moved to Los Angeles. She sometimes introduced herself as Yana the Witch. And at the wheel was Charles Tex Watson, 23 and 6'3" from East Texas. Watson had been a Boy Scout and the captain of his high school football team. He sometimes helped his dad, who ran a gas station and grocery store. At North Texas State University, he joined a fraternity and started getting stoned. Soon he dropped out, moved to California, and got a job as a wig salesman. One day he picked up a hitchhiker who turned out to be Dennis Wilson of the Beach Boys. A chance occurrence that changed both of their lives forever. That night in the Ford, all four were dressed in black from head to toe. None of them had a history of violence. They were part of a hippie commune that called itself the Family, living in isolation at the Spahn Ranch, whose mountainous 500 acres and film sets had once provided dramatic backdrops for Western-themed movies and TV shows. The family had assembled a new age...
Oh, really? What story was that? Was that Ted Bundy?
Anti-establishment politics.
Nursing students? I don't know that one.
And apocalyptic Christianity, rounded out with a vehement rejection of...
So many serial killers, you know?
More than anything, they lived according to the whims of...
Can't keep track of them all.
The 34-year-old Charles Mills Manson, who
Something
had
over
commanded
here.
them to take their trip that night. The four arrived at 1005.
No, before Manson. Before Manson, okay. I don't know who is before Manson. I don't know anyone before Manson. Man, I know there were lots of serial killers, but there's that famous serial killers in the UK. Can't remember their names off the top of my head. I don't know. I don't know who that is. Nursing students? Nursing student dorm. Before Manson. Manson was 1960s, 1969 or something. I don't know. There was a recent murder in, what was it, Nebraska or somewhere. This guy just went in and killed everybody in a dorm frat house or something. It's craziness. $265, not this one. Next one. I use a yellow and then an orangey outline color here. So I see 289, 288. Okay. This one. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who was before Manson. It was Wayne Gates with a clown, I think. There was the Hillborough, what was it called? The Hillborough Stranglers or something. That was after Manson, though. There was the Zodiac Killer. So many. I keep track of them all. So many killers, so little time. All I know, if there's suddenly a lot of killings going on around Montecito, I know who I would look at. Zodiac Killer, yeah, I remember that one. They had everybody was trying to decode his secret message there. Nobody could figure it out for the longest time. I just love playing up these serial killers. Oh yeah, Hollywood made a lot of money. It shows you how evil Hollywood is. I think Hollywood and the CIA just made these serial killers, and then they turn around and make movie deals and book deals off of them. How much you want to make a bet? The whole thing is just one big conspiracy, one big satanic. It wouldn't surprise me if the whole thing was one big satanic agenda there. You know, they made so much publicity and stories and books and movies. Oh, okay. Talking about the Zodiac killer, he just disappeared. Well, Charles Manson interests me because he was into Scientology before he became a killer. You know that? He was into Scientology. He got into it in prison. So I think Scientology is based on Satanism, or I know it is, according to Dazed but Not Confused, that guy that was in the cult, he confirms it's all based on Satanism. So you've got this guy, Charles Manson, gets into Scientology, and next thing you know, Scientology is also brainwashing you. And next thing you know, Charles Manson is ordering people to be killed and getting all these other people, these girls or whatever, to murder. Just seems a little coincidental, doesn't it? Yeah, well, Scientology doesn't like people knowing that, right? That Charles Manson was into Scientology, right? They're not going to advertise it. Might hurt business, right? And the Process Church is a very evil satanic group. They call themselves the Process Church, they call themselves in Los Angeles. And they were also very openly satanic. And they also, the founders of that were from Scientology. They met in Scientology and then supposedly broke away and started the Process, which Charles Manson was also involved in. It all came from Scientology. It's like when you start looking into it, it's like really, it's Scientology, Satanism, and the Charles Manson and Scientology and all that appears to be related to the Berkowitz killer in New York. Berkowitz. I forget what they called him. Yeah, Tom Cruise. I don't know. I know he's hanging out with the royals. That's all I know. A lot of money, a lot of power there. Scientology still has a lot of money, a lot of power, a lot of Satanism. Hanging out with the royals doesn't help their image, I'll tell you what. They're like shoving it in our face, like, yeah, we're all Satanists hanging out together. And Scientology apparently just opened a new branch in Paris, France. You love Tom Cruise? Yeah, I don't know. I heard he's a psychopath. I don't know. What's his name? Days of Not Confused guy. He met him, I believe. No, it definitely knows all about him because he was an actor and he was in Scientology, so he knows all the their inside scoop there. I don't know. His movies are good, but he's okay. I don't think he's anything special as far as actors go. I don't know. Hollywood, man. Especially nowadays, they're all like so evil now, the performers and everything, Taylor Swift and all these other ones. They're so overt with their Satanism, right? They just get on stage and they're doing all this openly, like it's being very evil. It's really creepy. Yeah, look it up and let me know. I mean, it might be, I might recognize the name if you said the name. It's a big story. He must have had a name, right? Like a catchy name. They always give him a catchy name, like the Hillside Strangler or something. Son of Sam. Yeah, the Son of Sam killer. That's Berkowitz. He's supposed to be related somehow. The people, same group is related to that as to Charles Manson. They're all Satanists, basically. Yeah, let me know. Nursing students. Okay, so it's getting to be. I'm gonna use the orange next. Okay, one more shade. Richard Speck. Wow, Richard Speck, 1966. I don't know much about that one. I don't think I've heard of that one. Was he, was he connected somehow to any groups, or he's just working alone? I'll have to look him up. What made you interested in him? Did you know somebody he killed, or you from Chicago? I don't think I've ever heard of him. I lived in New York, so I heard of the Son of Sam. Maybe when you live someplace, you hear about it. You're more attuned to it, maybe. Richard Speck. See, like certain serial killers seem to get really famous, like Jeffrey Dahmer and Charles Manson, but then others just don't get as famous for some reason. For some reason, maybe their crimes just aren't evil enough to get that much attention. That is crazy. So he only went after nursing students. Wow. You wonder, that was so long ago. You wonder what see nowadays with all these killers or mass shooters, like you're hearing like the pharmaceuticals, the SSRIs have a lot to do with violence. I'm wondering what, actually in the 1960s they had the MK Ultra, right? So maybe that was involved. You never know, right? Because if you think about it, it takes a lot of thought and effort to go to all that trouble. Like you wonder what drives, what benefit there are to that. To there's a BTK killer is another big one. What, that was in Kansas? That was more recent, though. Some killers just have regular family lives. That BTK killer, he's married with a child and held a job, and no one had any idea. Even his own daughter didn't know. His own daughter found out when she was an adult after he died, I think, and then she wrote a book about it. It's wild. I think they just like getting away with it or something, the thrill of getting away with it. You know, like a psychopath, they enjoy like taunting the police. Wonder what H.G. Tudor would say about that. What drives them? I think he would know. Maybe H.G. Tudor has something to tell us. Something to confess. What do you remember about Richard Speck? What's the horror story that you heard? Is anything specific, or just that he killed so many people? It's kind of like Jack the Ripper. Jack the Ripper was probably the first serial killer you heard became famous, right? I don't think people to this day are. I don't think they are really sure who that was. Oh, he hated women, huh? Wow. I think Megan hates women. Telling you, the way she looks at these women who interview her, whenever you see Megan's mask drop, it's always when she's with a woman interviewing her. She like hates women, I think. Man, look out. You can see the look on her face when the mask drops, like she could kill you. I really think she's scary. She's seriously scary looking. I don't know. Really? He's in prison now. He has breasts? Oh my. Yeah, prison's a whole other world from what I hear. And it's a whole other world where they say you're gay for the stay. That kind of thing. Yeah. Wow. That's so funny. He hated women and now he wants to be one. So maybe he was a transgender. He just didn't want to admit to it or something. Yeah, Jack the Ripper was the first. Yeah, it's the first one I ever heard of. But he might not have been the first, just the first to get famous. All right, so now I'm almost done here. I think I just got to do a little bit in the background here. Yeah, what do I have? 22, 23. And 22, I'll go 22. I wonder with the, apparently with the case of Charles Manson, there's a lot of unanswered questions as to what really happened and why. And I think Scientology may have a lot to do with it. I don't know. We'll see. I'm still listening to the book. This guy who wrote this book said that he got into a screaming match with Tom Cruise. So he's spoken to Tom Cruise. Boston Strangler. Yeah, I heard of that one. I don't know when that one was. You don't hear about them too much anymore. We're gonna get more now that they've opened the border up. It's probably gonna be a lot more serial killers roaming around. Probably hearing a lot more coming soon. All right, let's see here. What to do with this? Zodiac Killer, yeah. That was the one. That was in Washington State, I think. Washington State has a lot. They had Ted Bundy too. Something in the water up there. Yeah, BTK, not BKS, BTK, bind, torture, kill. I remember that one. That was a big one. Yeah. He was a guy that BTK was the one who had a job and a family, and no one had any idea. He got away with it, man. He had a job, a family, he's going to work. Nobody had any clue. Can you imagine? Even his own family had no idea. Ramirez, yeah. Ramirez, I think that's one of the Hillside Strangler, I think he was, if I'm not mistaken. He worked with his cousin or something, his friend. That's the one I'm thinking of. A lot of serial killers in the Los Angeles area. That's all I gotta say. Where Harry and Meghan live. That's all I gotta say. Gainey, yeah, I heard of Gainey. Or a Gaines, isn't it Gaines or is it Gainey? Ed Gaines, I think. Yeah, there's a whole people have written astrology books about serial killers, studying their charts and everything. I think that's what got me started on serial killers. People are trying to figure out, well, what makes them tick. Uh-huh. You had a local one, really? Wow. Now, are you in California? That's scary. I don't know what I'd do if there was a serial killer around. Keeping the lights on all night. I'd have to get a dog or something. Yeah. Exactly. What makes them like that? Oh, South Carolina. Okay. My friend wants to move to South Carolina. She wants to retire there. Beautiful area, beautiful place to live. The beach. Everybody does. Yeah, what is it about? Why does everybody want to retire to South Carolina? I don't get it. What's the It's because of the beautiful beaches or something? It's just 'cause I was always thinking Florida would be the best place to retire, right? Because so many people retire there in the retirement communities. Beautiful people, beautiful smiles. Oh yeah. Must be, 'cause everybody wants to live there. Sounds like it's the place to be. I'm gonna try it out. I'm gonna visit. I haven't been there. I've never been there, I don't think. A lot of places I still have not been to. It's very sad. I have to do a cross-country tour one of these days. I'll do it on YouTube. Tarot cross-country tour. So now it's a fad to live out of a van, right? Out of your car. So you can just do a cross-country trip there and live out of your car, and it would be perfectly normal now, right? I'll visit all 50 states. Florida's fake. I don't know. They have the beaches, though. I know what scares me with Florida is like the snakes and the snakes, basically the alligators and snakes. That's what would scare me there, though. Keep reading these stories of them catching a boa constrictor, killing a dog or something, and killing a human. They kill people too. The alligators there. Yeah, that's scary. That's scary. You go for a walk and yeah, look out. They're huge. They're huge. They can eat a human. So scary stuff. Florida. Yeah, living near the beach. If I retired, I want to retire near a beach. That'd be nice. But safety would be very important to me as well. I don't know. I haven't figured that one out yet. Where to retire? She's gonna live there for a summer first and then decide. So I may go visit. I'll see what it's like. Hey, I may fall in love with it too and decide to retire. Well, I'll be living in South Carolina. I have to pick up the accent though, right? You have a southern accent. Everyone will know I'm a I don't know. What do you call northerners? Oh, Myrtle Beach, yeah. So what's the slang word for someone from the north? What do they call them? In South Carolina. All right, so I'm almost done here. Almost getting there, getting the last little bit here. And then I'll call it a day. My gel pen. So the gel pen is really, I'll put up a before and after pic. You can see it's so much more colorful with the gel pen ink. And it's so much fun. I can get the gel pen ink out. Yeah, give me a hard time. Yankee. I thought it was Yankee. But I was like, nah, it's not Yankee. Is it Yankee? Yankee. That's what I thought. Okay. Let's see here. How about moving here before I die? I don't know. When are you going to die? I'm not retiring for many years yet, so I don't know. We'll see what happens. Fate, see how fate, what transpires, what works. Not funny. Well, you said how about, well, you said it. You said how about moving there before you die? Before I die. So that's why I asked, well, when are you planning on doing that? How would I know? How would I know to move before you die? All right, I was being too literal. I apologize. Maybe it's just an expression. I was taking it too literally. Yeah, that's another thing. In the South, you have all these expressions that you don't have in the North, you know? Like bless your heart, right? Do people say bless her heart and things like that? And that's supposed to be an insult, right? Somebody says bless their heart. Do they say that in South Carolina? So you have all these expressions that I would never hear otherwise. No, you don't say that, really? Okay. Maybe that's a Texas thing. I don't know. Where does that come from? I know people use that expression. Like bless their hearts. Oh, you're just teasing me. Okay. That's okay. Nah, nah, nah. Your family meant it with compassion, not sarcasm. Uh, your family asked you when you were gonna die. Oh, you always say bless their heart. Oh, but it was a positive thing though when you said it. It wasn't sarcasm. Okay. Okay. Well, I think it can go either way. Like sometimes it can be a nice thing, but sometimes it's so you can't tell. It depends on the circumstances, I guess. It's like one of those expressions that can go either way, depending on who you're talking about. Yeah, right. Okay. That's what I figured. All right. This started on Bravo's Southern Charm. The expression started? Oh, so using it negatively, you mean? Yeah, sarcasm. Okay. Got it. It's a relatively new phenomena then. Okay. Got it. All right. I don't know. I think I want to end this here. I think I'm not gonna go any further with the colors on this one. I'm gonna enter there. There we go. Ta-da. That is the end of my gel painting with this Mythomorphia picture. Oh, your okay. Your grandparents and uncles had the Charleston accents. Okay, so the Charleston accent is more southern. Now, I would never be able to tell the difference. It all sounds the same to me. I mean, I think I can tell a Texan accent from like Georgia or South Carolina. Oh, you're losing the culture because people moving there. Yeah, yeah, I'll bet we all are, right? Oh, I gotta learn about that. I don't know what the difference between Charleston and a Southern accent is. Really? So Charleston sound like Pak the Ka and Harvard Yard? I know a Boston accent. Boston. That's interesting. I didn't know that. Sorry to hear that. I I would not want to inflict that on anyone. Okay, I'll look that up. Lord Ashley Cooper. Okay. I will. I'll look that up. I'll see. I'll listen. So yeah, I learn something new all the time from you guys. I'm telling you. Always learning something new. All right, so I'm gonna end this here. I'm done for today. Thanks for being here. Thanks for joining me. And until next time, have a good night. Take care. Bye bye.